Hi, I'm Tina Reeder, and I have Duncan Reeder with me as well. Duncan is a 2.5-year-old golden retriever therapy dog, and I am a high school teacher here at Calvary Christian Academy. And he is the campus therapy dog, attending school every day. He hangs out in my classroom. Um, I am a home economics teacher, so I teach cooking and sewing. So it kind of fits together, right? This is our third year at CCA together. He started when he was just 4 months old and has literally trained up here. He goes to school when he comes to school. We have a very unique situation as far as therapy dog training and work. Which I'll explain a little bit later. But I'm excited to share with you today. And my prayer is that we can inspire you and mentor some of you, possibly, if God calls you to do the same or similar to what we're doing. Now, I'm gearing this towards therapy dogs in schools, but some of you may feel the calling to train up and use a therapy dog in other aspects. Duncan is primarily used here, but we are very involved in the community as well. And I really enjoy that type of volunteer work as well. So I'd like to begin right off the bat with some definitions and context. So I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So a therapy dog is a type of working dog. There are two main types of working dogs that you may encounter or you're familiar with in regular life and may come across and see dogs with vests on. And the two are therapy dog and service dogs. So I like to explain the difference. And this is how you just sum this up. I'll say, well, a therapy dog is for everyone else, but a service dog is just for the handler, the person who is handling the dog. That seems to help people understand. Another point to keep in mind is that a service dog, they're not supposed to be interacting with other people because their primary job is for that handler, providing a certain service for that handler, whether it is for sight or hearing, or it's an alert dog for diabetes or seizures. That dog has to be ready and alert to alert the handler or be able to lead the handler in that way. Where a therapy dog works for all people and they provide comfort and support. So, another point to keep in mind is that the service dogs are protected by the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that is a institution that says that businesses, restaurants, hotels, any types of businesses like that, need to make reasonable modifications to allow the use of the dog in their establishment. This is not true for therapy dogs. Therapy dogs must be invited, as we like to say, to interact in a specific place or event or time. Other working dogs you may be familiar with, search and rescue dogs. When we saw the building collapse in Miami, there was a lot of search and rescue dogs. Police dogs, we see the canines with our police officers, and those are officers, those dogs. Military working dogs, herding dogs on farms, detection dogs, they bomb sniffing dogs and drug sniffing dogs, those in our airports, and then guard dogs. So these are all classifications of working dogs. Emotional support dogs, I get a lot of people ask me about those. Those are not considered working dogs, rather canine companions, which provide comfort and emotional support to individuals dealing with mental health challenges or emotional distress. Now, this should not be confused with psychiatric service dogs. So, psychiatric service dogs are service dogs that are trained to sense the onset, for example, of an anxiety attack, and are able to respond to lessen its impact. So these dogs know that the paws on the lap or the paws on the chest lessen these reactions, or these psychiatric situation. So those are called psychiatric service dogs. So different from an emotional support dog. So, any questions, real quick, just so we're all on the same page of what we're talking about? Okay, good. Moving on. So I have 4 objectives. And I'm going to tell you right now, you probably will leave here with more questions than answers. And I'm going to apologize in advance, but this is a big topic that's changing a lot. And I will show you how to contact me afterwards so I can answer any specific questions that don't get addressed here. So I'd like to give a testimony as well as research as far as the benefits of therapy dogs in school. So I'm going to talk about the benefits. I'm going to talk about proper interaction and handling. That's almost like a little bit of a dog training for you. And then some training and certification guidelines. There's a lot of certification agencies out there. I'll highlight 3 that I'm very familiar with. And then again, I'll give you my follow-up contact information so that you can know that if anything is not addressed, that it can be later. All right. So our first objective is benefits of therapy dogs in schools. And again, I'm gearing this towards schools, but this is benefits of a therapy dog. So I'd like to begin this first section with a testimony of Michael. So Michael is a student here at Calvary Christian Academy. His parents are both teachers and have been part of this fellowship for quite a while. I've known his mom for 20 some years. We both started here when the school opened. And Michael was adopted out of foster care and has had a difficult time in his young life. So when I started with Duncan, Duncan was only 4 months old and Michael was 3 years old. So here's a picture of them together in my classroom. I absolutely love this picture because, well, you could just see the joy in this little man's face. So I asked his mom. So Michael is now 5. He may be pushing 6, right? So I asked his mom to write a quick story, just summarizing the relationship. And on the slide here is what Michael's mom said. He said, Duncan and Michael have a sweet bond. We have been visiting Duncan since he first came to CCA. Michael has several diagnoses, with one being severe emotional disturbance. He has struggled since coming to CCA as a 3-year-old with outbursts and meltdowns. Incorporating regular visits with Duncan before and after school have helped Michael learn to self-regulate his emotions. Just the mention of visiting Duncan can turn Michael's demeanor around immediately. We have been so blessed with this ministry. And I love that she calls it a ministry because that's exactly what it is. It is so much more than just having a dog on campus. It's just an extended ministry and opportunity. So I like to show you this quick little video clip I put together of Duncan and Michael. So again, this is in the early days, and you see Duncan was only real tiny there, and now he's big boy. Michael in his crate. Michael throughout the school day will run into him, and it's always a joy. This is the love that Duncan has for Michael, and you can see it's very special. And Duncan being 85 pounds, and Michael not even close, is very gentle. And we'll visit Dad, but we'll come right back because this is his favorite guy right here. This is Michael in my classroom. This gives you an idea of what my classroom environment looks like. And they have a very special game they play where Duncan drags Michael across the ground. So that is very gentle when you consider that this is a puppy. And yeah, they have a lot of fun together. This is Michael recently. This is this year. So you can see Michael's a little taller now, and that's Dad and sister. And you can see how they interact together, how patient Duncan is, runs after him, but doesn't jump on him. They have great respect for each other. Michael understands the size of him and is very respectful, and it's reciprocated with Duncan. Duncan's laying here chewing a bone, and for most dogs they would be growling, and but Duncan is very gentle. And look, Michael knows not to take that out of his mouth, so they've both been trained well. This is my most recent video of Michael and Duncan. This is right before Christmas, and Michael's walking with us after school, telling us all about his day in kindergarten. It's a very special time, and for me as well. So, very special friends. This is Michael and Duncan. I hope you enjoyed that. So, that's a great testimony. But I also realize that sometimes your administration wants a little bit more than that. So I have two comprehensive studies that I've linked to the bottom of this presentation right here that I'm going to talk about. And I want to let you know that at the end of the presentation, I will tell you how to get this actual slides presentation so that you can get the links and you can get everything that I'm showing you right here and not showing you. So there'll be a lot of information for you. So one of the studies is called Sustained Effects of Animal-Assisted Crisis Response on Stress on School Shooting Survivors. So this data was collected during the months and years following the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School on February 14, 2018. I found this particularly interesting, not necessarily because I'm sure we're all familiar with that tragic day, but I was actually in the school with someone else's therapy dog following the days that the students did return back to school. And as I was there, I mean, I'm not exaggerating to say there was 20, 30 therapy dogs there a day for many months. And this is where I was introduced to therapy dog work and saw the power of it. And I walked around and with someone else's therapy dog and him handling them and talking to the children. And I remember asking some kids, what do you feel like? How's it feel to have these dogs around? And over, the response was, it makes me feel safe. Safe was the word that they reported. And so, as you can see here from what the research showing on my slide, safety is one. Reduction of self-reported fear and anxiety. And these dogs really, just the presence of them. So even when Duncan doesn't get to interact with the students, just me walking through the halls has an impact on them. The other study is psychosocial and psychophysiological effects of human-animal interactions, the possible role of oxytocin. And so this paper reviewed 69 original studies on the human-animal interaction and then documented its effects. So what I found, that the whole paper is very interesting, but what really stood out to me was the measure of cortisol levels before and after interaction with these trained therapy dogs. And what they found, now cortisol is a hormonal indicator of stress, and they measured it with saliva samples before and after the interaction. And the study mentioned a marketable decrease in cortisol in the therapy dog group compared to other forms of relaxation therapies, such as meditation therapies and that type of thing. So they did find that the therapy dog group did have a reduction in cortisol levels, even more so than other methods. So I found that very interesting. I could have told you that, but I don't go around with swabbing my kids' cheeks before and after. But I just have, as I read through this research, I just nod my head and say, yep, knew that. So these research papers are available for you here, and then I'll get those to you. All right, my next objective is proper interaction and handling of therapy dogs. Now, it's not all about training the dog, however, which we focus on a lot. The handler and the students need to know appropriate ways to approach, interact, and handle the therapy dogs to ensure the safety and well-being of both student and dog, because we have to protect the dogs as well. There is such a thing as overstressing and overworking a working dog. Some breeds tend to exhibit that more. Other breeds are more resilient to that. And we'll talk about that when I talk about choosing a dog. Since I've been with Duncan pretty much his entire life, I got him at 8 weeks old. I have grown to learn and understand his body language. That's one of the things I highly focused on. And when you spend that much time with a dog, I mean, we're rarely apart from each other. You really begin to understand the way that they communicate. And dogs have a very different way of communication than humans. And it's important not to expect them to be humans and talk to them and think that they understand what you're saying, because they don't. And some people will say, oh, well, that dog's just stubborn. He's just not obeying me. And it's like, no, pretty much he doesn't understand English or Spanish or French or German. He doesn't understand our languages at all. Body language is extremely important to them, and for us to watch them. So there's a link right here, and it's from the American Kennel Club. I can click that real quick to see. It says how to read dog body language. It's a great article regarding that. I'm going to highlight just a few things that's in that article that I have seen and have applied to me. First, tail wagging. When a dog wags his tail, it means he's happy, right? Yeah, no, not always, which is very interesting because especially kids will say, well, he's wagging his tail, he's happy. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes a dog with their tails held up really high, like a flag, sometimes that they're feeling confident. Other times it means they're aggressive. Again, it can be breed specific, but it's very dog specific. So you have to see the entire body language, just not focusing on the tail. The posture, a dog's weight distribution can tell a lot about their mood and their intention. A cowering dog shows signs of fear or stress. One that rolls on their back is often relaxed, but not always. Again, it could be showing signs of stress or anxiety. It's something you have to watch for. Um, Lip licking and yawning are two things that I watch for in my dog, and are something that is a good telltale sign of stress and anxiety. Sometimes people will say, oh, my dog's tired, that's why he's yawning. Probably not. Probably the yawning is showing stress signs, and over licking can be a sign of stress when they're over licking. I notice this when I take them to the hospitals and in a very stressful situation, especially when I'm in for an intensive care unit or something along those lines, where there's a lot of beeping noises, different surface areas, smells, and a suffering patient. Oftentimes he's licks the hand of that patient, and he's concerned. He's concerned for that patient. And not that I take him out of that situation, but I don't leave him in there for an extended period of time, just protect him as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a video of Duncan at CCA. Again, opportunity to see how he functions here. That might stimulate some ideas for you. But also, when we watch this, what I'd like for you to do is really focus on his body language. So let's see if you can determine his body language. So we saw this video of Michael laying on him. This is a very relaxed, content dog right here. His tail's not wagging or anything. Now watch this when the students approach him. They're coming at him. Initially, he backed off a little, but then he went back to them. Now watch this. Watch how he walks away. And the student understands and walks away. And so that was a good interaction for the dog and for the student. Now watch when he does this. He puts his face down on the ground. And there's another time when he does that, and I'll talk to you about that. Now, look at the cowering of his back end. And if you probably can't see like I can, but I can see his back hindquarters quivering. He's fearful. The tail's wagging, but it's a fearful little wag. Why? The stairs. The stairs makes him nervous. Now, I didn't force him into that situation. He did it willingly. So that's okay. Here, he's walking with a student with crutches. He looks back at me a couple times, and that's him asking for reassurance. So I know his body language in that. I never force him, I let him explore himself. This is a very high energy moment right here. This is the first chapel, the kids coming back to school. They're assembling in the sanctuary hallway. We're talking hundreds of kids. It's noisy. There's height. There he is with his booty in the air, we call it. This is Duncan's way of calming himself. He's overexcited and he puts his head down. So look at this, confident. And I play it 3 times. Confident dog right there, enjoying himself. And this is him in my classroom. You could see the gentle wagging of the tail. And as my students are cooking, he's very, very relaxed. And so are the students with him. They know how to walk around him. He's not jumping up. And then he has a place to rest when that's him in his Christmas PJs. He has a place to rest, which is also very important, that they have a place to rest and retreat when they need to. And the students know not to go in there or bother him when he's there. All right. So I'm moving on to training and certification of therapy dogs. So I'm going to run through these steps, not all inclusive, skipping, moving around, doing them different order. It's kind of up to you. This is just my experience with it. And I want to preface it to say Duncan's not my first therapy dog. I had another therapy dog prior to him. So I told you my interaction or introduction to therapy dogs was with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas and the events, the horrific events that took place there. And I was able to go into that school with a friend who had a highly trained German Shepherd. And then I left that experience, and weeks later, I went to the Lord and I just said, Lord, what was that all about? How did you open that up for me? How did I have opportunity to minister to that level? There was one circumstance where a girl was petting the dog and she said some things that was alarming. I was able to get help for her to find out that she actually had a plan to commit suicide. And that was all shared over petting the dog. And so I know I've seen it right firsthand, and I was thrown into it in that way. And so I said, well, Lord, all I have is a dachshund. And I did. My daughter had, and she was living with me at the time, and she had a miniature dachshund that was like 3 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old. And I was like, Lord, can you use Harley? And God was like, you know what? I used the donkey. I can use a dachshund. And so I started the training and started with the dachshund. And I would bring him to school every once in a while. But he didn't, he would last about half the day and then he'd be like, I'm done with this. And he didn't have resilience, is the word that I want to use. He's a great dog. I used him at Vitas Hospice, like an hour at a time. I'd take him to a hospital, put him on the bed of a hospice patient, let them pet him, and then leave. And he did great. And then I decided, just praying through it, I really, God put on my heart, it's time for a golden retriever. And so that's the first thing I'll talk to you about is the dog. There's no perfect dog, but some may be better suited for therapy dog work. Harley did a great job, but Duncan does a way better job, and it has nothing to do with the training necessarily. It's just the temperament and the resilience of, say, a golden retriever, a larger dog. So consider that. Not that little dogs can't be used because they can, but recognize that some dogs have more limits than others, and Duncan's limited in some respects as well as maybe another dog would be. So you find the dog, ask God to bring you that dog, and use it to its full capacity, and celebrate what you can use that dog for. That's what I've learned. Basic obedience. So, a lot of people say, "Look, my dog can sit." I'm like, "Great, that's awesome," but that needs a lot more than just sit. Sit, stay, down, come, heel, drop. Having something in their mouth, being able to tell them to drop it is very, very important for the safety of the dog. I go into a lot of situations that are dangerous. We've been deployed to Hurricane Ian, walked through some pretty dangerous areas that if he picked up something with his mouth or went to lick a puddle, could kill him. So you have to be very careful with dogs like that, and being able to do what you can with them. So one of the basic obedience criteria, the American Kennel Club has something called the Canine Good Citizen. This is a prerequisite pretty much for any therapy dog. Most therapy dog organizations require it, and it's a good starting spot. So usually when people talk to me, I was like, okay, you have your dog, you've been through some obedience classes, they seem to be calm, they have a great temperament. All right, can they pass the CGC? And so as you go here, you'll see it says the test items, and they list the 10 test items. So you can go through these. Basically, one of the things I see is walking through a crowd. Your dog may be great on leash in your neighborhood with just you and them, but walking through a crowded hospital floor, school floor, oh my goodness. And when I'm walking through, when the bell rings and all the kids come out all out at the same time, walking through that can be very stressful, and a dog could get crazy. So walking through a crowd, um, can they accept a friendly stranger when somebody walks up? Do they get overexcited? Do they cower behind you? So reading through this is really great. And dogs can be trained. It's not like, oh, my dog can't pass, so therefore they can't be. That's not true. So with training, oops, sorry. Okay, so basic obedience. Oh, keep advancing. Socialization. The socialization, do they have good manners? Can they control their barking, lunging, tolerate strangers? Something very get this out of the way. There we go. Something that I used early on as soon as I got Duncan at 8 weeks old, I did this puppy socialization. It's by Dr. Ian Dunbar, and it's 100 experiences in 100 days. So within their first 100 days of life, ideally, you want dogs to be experienced to all of these things. And I know this is really tiny here, but again, the link is here for you. But just so many things that we don't even think about. Being able to take a toy away from them without them growling or lunging at it, very important. Stairs was a huge um, issue for Duncan that we had to really, really work on. And it wasn't until he was about 7 months old where I would take him to a stairwell and he would cower and he would not go up the stairs. He would do elevators, but he wouldn't do stairs. And I would coax him. I throw treats up on the stair. I tried everything, and I never forced him. And eventually I took him to the stairs and I was like, up, and he went up. It was like it clicked one day. So that's what I'm saying. It can be trained. It takes a lot of patience and understanding and watching for their dog signs and communicating with them. But this socialization checklist is awesome. And I still go through it and check and make sure that he has access to this. Garbage trucks, garbage cans. When I take my garbage can out, I put him on my leash and I have him walk alongside me while I roll it out to the street. doing these things, this type of work with him, better enables him to be used in more places. And that's why here is so great, because he's exposed to so many different things. So socialization is a big thing. Certification, your dog needs to be certified. I mean, it's reputable. It takes a while. Some, like Canines for Christ, is who we chose to go with, and I'll break down a few on my next slide. So it really just depends on your goals. So yeah, I'll look at that in the next slide. Facility expectations. So what does your school expect? What does your administration expect from the addition of a therapy dog on campus? Are there limitations to when, where, and how you visit students, who you visit? I don't visit the elementary school, not on purpose, but first of all, I don't have time. I'm in high school and he's around the high school students, and that's kind of enough for him at this age. He's only 2.5 years old. Every once in a while, I'll get asked to come for a special event of some sort. I've taken Harley into a kindergarten class before. He's a smaller dog. And so it kind of depends. So what is your administration looking at for that? Is the dog invited to just events? Do maybe just one-on-one interactions with certain students in certain circumstances? What's the dog's schedule? Will you have, quote, office hours for your dog? He's in my classroom every day. So that was agreed upon with my administration, that he would be in my classroom. How will the students know when they can interact with him? It's kind of rule around here for us is kids can come to my classroom at lunchtime and see Duncan, and before and after school, which they don't, because they don't get here before school in high school. And after school, they're out of here. But typically they know that if they needed that. And that I've had requests for different other types of circumstances where I could visit them during testing days. And when we do our midterm exams, the teachers know I'm available. I'm in the hallways. Students could come out, pet them, go back and finish their exam. So whatever expectation, just make sure you're clear with your administration. And then there's a gradual introduction of the dog. It's not, now I went all in, very different, unique situation. So, but I don't share my room with other teachers. I'm the only person in my classroom so that teaches in that room. So that's usually not the way it is, especially for high school. I'm located out of the main school building. I'm so if he barks, it's not disturbing, and not that he does excessively, but if he did, it's not disturbing other classrooms. I have an exterior door in my classroom. It leads right out to the parking lot. So especially when he was a baby, I mean, dogs have to go potty every hour, and I was able to train him. He'd sit by the door and I take him out, he pee, we come right back in. So I had that luxury of doing that. So think, what would your circumstances allow? Um, Excellent classroom management. I mean, you have to be a master of classroom management. And I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but it's my 24th year here. And I know the rules. I know how to manage my classroom, and I was a PE teacher prior. And I don't know, I'm gonna say hello to the PE teachers. You're talking about some classroom management. Okay, our classroom is birds and airplanes flying over. Okay, we've got a lot of disruptions for our classroom. So, just knowing that about yourself. How are you going to manage your classroom with a dog in there if you're teaching and having a dog? I mean, some of you may not be teaching and do it, but these are just some thoughts for you. Okay, therapy dog organization comparison. So I took 3 therapy dog organizations. Now, I'm not saying they're the best. I'm not saying they're the worst. I'm not saying they're the cheapest. I'm saying these are the ones I'm familiar with. Really, that's what it is. There are many. And there's 2 others that are very well known that are not on my list, but I was just trying to keep it succinct. So Canines for Christ, which I'll click here and show you their website. Canines for Christ Therapy Dog Ministry, loving God, loving people, loving dogs. So as you can see, it's ministry based. That is where God called me. So it made tons of sense for me to go with Canines for Christ. A couple other things about them that were beneficial to me is as soon as your dog receives their Canine Good Citizen, which the AKC grants that at 6 months old or older, Canines for Christ will take you and certify you. That's how they certify you. All you have to do is pass the CGC. You must wear their stuff because they're a ministry. They want Christ on your dog, Christ on your chest. That's what they're all about. And you yourself have to be a Christian, of professing Christ as your savior and be willing to share the gospel if you're in that situation. So very ministry based. And there's no restrictions on visits. I can, if I feel the Holy Spirit's calling me to go and stop at that hospital and I'm invited to that patient's room, I can go. I don't have to like check in, call, log it, make sure that they know. Although they do ask you to submit your logs at the end of the year, but that's just for their evaluation procedures. It's there's no restrictions. Um, with that cost, they give you the vest for the dog and a t-shirt for you. And they also give you cards that have the gospel on the back of them, which is actually, I'll have them here in the presentation for you to have one of ours. So that's probably why the cost is a little bit more. It's $125 initiation and then $50 every year after. Alliance for Therapy Dogs. So I'll pull up that website so you can just look and see what it looks like. So again, this is a very well-known one. They're known by the little heart on the collar. So they don't give you a jacket or shirts and stuff like that. You just get a little trinket that's a heart, and that is to be worn on the dog's collar for identification. With them, they do 3 observations. They have volunteers that do the observations. You contact them, they find one in your area, and you have to be evaluated 3 times. 2 of those times are in a medical care situation. So, hospital convalescent center, they'll walk with you and see how your dog performs. And then the dog has to be a year old and there's no restriction on visits, and you could participate with other groups. For example, if Canines for Christ is having something going on, then Alliance for Therapy Dog can join us and vice versa. CAT, Canine Assisted Therapy. I'll show you their website. You may have seen I see them around a lot. Their purple vests are pretty iconic, and they're very professional. They're wearing their polos and their vests and or bandanas. So they do background screenings and the CGC, but they have an evaluation at their facility, and they have a mentor that mentors you through the process. The biggest difference that I see with canine assisted therapy and the other two is they arrange your visits. For example, they have places like for example, Holy Cross Hospital. I know this. They have a certain time and place that they visit like monthly, and they'll have that, and all their certified dogs have an option of saying, oh, I want to go to Holy Cross on Tuesday at 10 o'clock to that and be a presence there. And so, but you have to go when you can't just put your vest on and decide you're going to go to Holy Cross Hospital by yourself, is what I'm saying. So that, as you can see for me, wasn't going to work. So because I'm ministry based and I was depending on the Holy Spirit to call me and go, I didn't want to be disobedient to the rules. So but the good thing I think is very beneficial about canine assisted therapy is the mentoring is awesome. Canines for Christ and Alliance for Therapy Dogs don't have a structure for that. I, as a Canines for Christ and a CGC, a Canine Good Citizen evaluator, would help you because you know me, but there's not a structure for that and otherwise. So if you're looking to be able to do it, but maybe not necessarily in your school, or you want to start out this way, that's one you may want to consider. I like to remind you that liability insurance is included with these fees. They have various policies, which is important. I mean, I haven't had issues, and honestly, I really don't know anybody who has, but there's always that one time. The handler has to be 18 years or older. The dog has to have a health verification from their veterinarian and have all vaccinations. Some people do choose not to vaccinate their dog, but that would not fulfill the requirements of most therapy dog organizations. The collar and the leash are required. There's different types of collars, and I can tell you what are not allowed. And that would be, if you're familiar with, they call the general categories adversive collars, which are maybe training type collars, like prong collars and e-collars, the little zappy ones. People use those in training, and that's fine, but you can't use those for therapy visits. And then the leash, most time it's 4 feet, a 4-foot leash, or at most 6-foot leash. So no retractable leashes, and you have to have a hold and control of the dog at all times. No one can have control of your dog but you. So that's a lot of information about therapy dogs and their organizations. Okay. And then the last, before I take questions, I wanted to show you how to contact us. So Pup Medics is Duncan and I. So Pup Medics, the Lord gave me this vision. I'm a widow of a firefighter paramedic. And I believe that the Lord is leading me to this ministry. He's a pup medic, not a paramedic, but a pup medic. And I think maybe you could connect the dots in my heart, in that we are canine first responders in crisis care. And so this is our website, fairly new, but we're praying that this year we will become a nonprofit. So be praying for that. I need more resources and help with that. But you can go through and see some of the things that we have done and where we've been involved. So how to access this presentation, it's right here. You can see the button. And so you can get this presentation, or the button will be there for this recording. So the button will be there. And then here's how to contact us. You can, I would ask you to do this if you would, and click this and add, so we can add you to our prayer team. We do need a lot of prayer in this process and just seeing what God is doing. And then I send out, this is by email. I will send out an email saying if we're being deployed someplace so that you could be praying for us. So we would covet your prayers in that. Also, if you're interested in becoming a therapy dog team, I would be honored to mentor you through the best I can. I know some dog trainers I can refer you to. I can answer questions. And if I don't know the answers, I can find out for you because I have a lot of resources. So I'd be honored to do that as part of ministry. And then if you want to visit, this is where I send people. If you request a visit from us, I have them request us here, and then I get those details. So I think that's it. Looking at my notes. Yeah. So I can take questions. And then for this recording, I will end it here. Thank you very much.